allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Could we have roll? Oh. Jessica, could we have roll call, please? Yes, I'll take that.
Trustee Stout
And just put now on his way.
on his way. Okay. Trustee Rhodey.
Here.
Trustee Belt.
Here.
Trustee Fader.
Here.
Trustee Kreiser.
Here.
Trustee Grabowski.
Here.
President Knudsen.
Here. Item 2 is old business, review, discussion, of possible action on prioritization of the progress on objectives, strategies, and tactics of the strategic plan, including a conceptual plan of improvements to the beach and lakefront property, Lakefront Park. Who would like to start this out? Matt, do you want to start this out, or just, okay?
If I may, President Knudsen. So thank you, and it's great to see a lot of folks from the community here for a strategy meeting. Thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule to come out and talk with us tonight. The first item up tonight is a potential improvement to the beach and Lakefront Park. The village developed a strategic plan during the course of 2024 and approved it later in that year that included focusing on some downtown projects. Last year in August, the board and staff reviewed those projects, and a couple received some focus of attention. One of those was improvements to the beach and the Lakefront Park, and another one was improvements to a river walk that might connect things downtown. Since that time, there have been some progress on both of those. In December of last year, there was a proposal before the board to share in some costs with the downtown businesses to do some concept planning. And that occurred over the winter by a company called Tesca. And in tonight's packet is the product that they came up with, the result of that concept planning. So if people look at their packets or up on the big screen, you can see there was an initial page that highlighted or described current conditions. And then on the next page, there were some notes about opportunities for improvements. And then on the third page, a potential plan for how things could be changed. So both last August and in December, when the board discussed this, one of the reference points that were used were the boardwalk improvements that were done in Oconomowoc. So you can see some similarities to the concept plan. Something that is clearly missing is there are no costs. We haven't reached that point yet. But there are some significant improvements in the potential concepts. Some of the highlights that the concept has are some additional bathrooms in the southern corner. So that's down in this area, right down here. When discussions were held with some of the downtown businesses and stakeholders, a frequent comment was that beachgoers struggle to get to the bathrooms at this end of the park and end up in some of the businesses. Some of the other highlights would be some permanent seating bump outs. So that's these features here along the boardwalk. Sorry for the scrolling, guys. There's an envisioned ADA access mat on the beach, and then a railing along the outside of the sidewalk. One of the things that has popped up both in the strategic planning process and in the discussion with the stakeholders and the downtown businesses is safety along West Wisconsin. We have a lot of folks, pedestrians, who will just cross the street at random points. on a very street with a lot of traffic. So some sort of a railing or a wall along the sidewalk would help to funnel pedestrian traffic into the crosswalks. There's a proposed central deck with some prominent seating features, and then some lighting improvements to improve not only the look and the ambience during the summer, but also off-season, like during the holidays for potential decorating. And I'll scroll down just to point out a couple of these things. So here's that prominent central feature, and then here is that ADA access mat that I referenced earlier. And then the railing or the wall would be along the sidewalk along here. And finally, there were some preliminary discussions with some of the stakeholders, with the Parks and Rec Department, because Lakefront Park is a village park, and it's their job as a department to maintain that facility and run activities there. The Pewaukee Water Ski Club, they're certainly prominent users of Lakefront Park, and they draw a lot of attention and great business traffic to the Pewaukee downtown areas. And then, of course, the downtown businesses, who are the tenants down there, and the people who operate that economic hub of the village. So with those comments, I think that's it for my introduction tonight.
Discussion, questions, Bob?
Yeah, I think for several years now, we have talked about what we call the downtown triangle. That's the lakefront area, West Wisconsin Avenue, Oakton Avenue, and then the Capitol Drive goes along the park, and everything within there. And the importance of that piece of real estate, the importance of it to the village and to the viability of the village. I look at this as truly being the heart of everything we have in the village of Pewaukee. You're going to be hearing about multiple things tonight that are part of an overall plan. But when you look at some of the things that are talked about with the lakefront, you're talking about the ability to extend over the riffraff rocks, which right now you can't even walk on, but we would have the ability to have seating area and boardwalk over there. You'd have a terrific asset in the river, a river walk being developed. You'd have bathrooms over on one side, as Matt had mentioned. I think the benefit of this investment that the village would make would pay off in dividends, not only along the lakefront, but also along Oakton Avenue in the future. By having those investments, those improvement investments, you're also going to see us become much more viable in our approach to a Four Seasons building in Kiwanis Park, and other things we've been thinking about. I think this plan takes us into the future for decades, and is an important part of what we need to do to keep up with other communities that are surrounding us.
Jim?
Piggybacking off of Trustee Rohde, first off, I want to thank Trustee Rohde, Matt, as well as the downtown businesses and the Seaman Realty Group for kind of being the motivator in this and progressing this through. For many years, I mean, even prior to this board being assembled, it has seemed that as organizations wanted to get involved in the downtown and come with something new, we approved it because it was a benefit to the downtown that wasn't necessarily hitting the village, financially. And then what we've kind of allowed ourselves to become over the years is a piecemeal together downtown. What we have here now is a cohesive plan going forward. And that's what we were tasked with last year at the strategic plan, was to focus on the downtown, something that was going to be not only beneficial for our downtown businesses, but also the residents and the village as a whole. And what has been put together, I think, hits on all of those and then some. It's not just improved functionality and amenities for beachgoers. It's increased safety, which is paramount down there, and I have been championing that cause for many years. That, you know, between the pedestrian and vehicular traffic, as well as just crowd in general, you know, I think this finally starts to take serious steps towards that in that downtown area, as well as it's a full revitalization of the aesthetics that it would draw people in from the surrounding areas. The downtown businesses, of which many of them are here representing, so thank you for showing up. You know, we owe it to them to become that destination that they have been putting effort into creating. And I think over the past 2, 3, 4 years, you know, I speak for myself, but I've seen a pretty significant changeover of the businesses down there, the mix of businesses, the clientele it's bringing in, and I think we're at this point where we have this wave of momentum, and Bob, you know, spoke of this in a lot of our meetings, that carrying this momentum through to seeing something that can fundamentally change the downtown of Pewaukee and the lakefront and turn us into something that is a destination spot for more than just a couple hours at the beach and go home. I think, you know, we owe that to the village, and we owe that to the future of the village. And getting feedback from businesses and the other stakeholders like the ski club and such, and hearing the excitement and how everyone else was viewing this only made me more excited about what could potentially happen. Obviously, we're still in the conceptual dreaming phase, but it's a good opportunity to see what we can be. You know, I know we did the Capstone project years ago that gave us a very pie in the sky type approach. You know, I think this is actually a realistic, something that we can start to try to figure out with putting numbers to, exploring grant opportunities, you know, simple things like the ADA mat, you know, for wheelchair access to the lake. Yeah, it's just overwhelmingly will improve all parts of users of this downtown. Bob and I and Matt especially have kind of lived and breathed this for the past couple months, so we're happy to answer any questions or input, or, you know, now that you've had some kind of time to digest it, questions on the elements of it.
Any questions or comments from the board members?
All right, book closed. I guess we're just gonna go ahead with it, so, cool. That was easy.
So I would just repeat what the two said. I think it looks like a really awesome plan.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like an experience.
There's not much to add from my perspective besides repeating something, so.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. And I do think it's more achievable than what we looked at last time. Although there were great ideas in there too, but this seems like something that's feasible and can still really make a big impact, which is great.
And I will speak for the meeting we had with the Warski team. They were very excited about it. It adds to the village park, or the lakefront park, viewing experience. One element here that is to be noted, I guess, that where it has the boat docks now, they probably would be back towards where they're currently located to still give the ski team room to operate. You know, I'm also, I don't know how the board would feel, but I'm also open to, you know, if Nick or Monica want to speak on it from a park standpoint, you know, we have to have all opinions in it, but it's up to the board, I guess.
Nick, would you like to make a statement? Sure. Nick is part of or head of the Park and Rec Department. Does a fabulous job, by the way.
Thank you. So I think overall, conceptually, there's some absolutely awesome ideas to the redesign and kind of, I think, looking at it to be able to reimagine the space. sometimes I think our department feels a little bit locked into this is what we have, this is how we take care of it, and how we best make it functional on a daily basis for like a 4.5 month sprint. I would love to probably propose taking it further with some potential improvements to the pavilion at Lakefront Park. That space right now, it's not super user-friendly, I would say, and I think in a prime location, there's potential for even more. Monica, myself, and Dan, our Parks Maintenance Supervisor, we're just brainstorming and we don't know what's possible, but what if we said it was a 2-story building and there was a rentable space and you had garage doors and you could have outdoor seating and a VIP area over the water ski show or over Waterfront Wednesday concert series, things like that. I think one of the things specifically for me, I'm still very protective of a very limited route or total space that we have at Lakefront Park. The park as a whole, I believe, is 0.94 acres, and there really isn't a whole lot of public lakefront access in the village or the city. So that's something I love to be able to keep green space and beach space, but I think there are definitely some areas that can be redesigned or reconfigured to be more user-friendly. I know one of the plans or proposals had talked about synthetic turf, and I would strongly caution or discuss putting that, depending on the fill product, but putting that much rubber near the lake. And obviously we have the 8 boat slips currently, the transient slips, and I think the other one of the proposals shows 32.
That would,
The
yeah,
team's,
no.
yeah. Okay? And
That's why
I'm
that's
just
not on
going off
there.
of what-
Yeah,
what I'm
that's why
seeing
that's
here.
not on there.
I think it was a little hard for us to tell the scale of the prominent gathering space there, just to the right or south of the dam, because the beach looks relatively large on there, and once you're there, it's really not all that big. So just wanna make sure that we have the scale correct there and how we feel about that. A lot of the other items that I have are more into the weeds, like about plant choices because of the high winds and sand and weather. Some of the table or yard games or umbrellas and picnic tables, movable seats, they all look great, but if you've been down there, those will all be across the street in like the first 15 minutes because of how windy it gets. Yeah. I mean, it's not uncommon for us. Matt saw me the other day in a windstorm. I was out in the street grabbing garbage cans and lids and stuff that are heavier than some of the items in there. I think the bathroom is a great idea, and having the ability to have a foot wash or shower station, I think makes all the sense in the world. So overall, I think we like the idea. We would love to see it go farther into the Lakefront Park Pavilion building, but certainly interested and optimistic on what else can come from the project. Is there anything I missed from? Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think the rest of our feedback would be if the village is interested in going further and getting kind of into the weeds and detailed discussion, we're happy to be involved further. But wanted to share those ideas on what we think could really enhance the park goer resident experience as they come down to Lakefront Park and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further discussion or comments? For those of you in the audience, if you'd like to see maybe not what these bump outs would look like, but what similar ones are being used now, if you go into Oconomowoc downtown and go behind the buildings on that lake there, they have the bump outs there. And I can tell you, every time I've gone by, there's people there. It's so nice to be able to take a lunch or dinner or whatever you want to do, sit out and you feel like you're out on the water. And it's amazing how many people will use that. I guess my big question to the 3 people that have headed up this project when can we start? What's our next move? What are we looking for now?
A budget?
Right, we need to put, yeah, we need to pencil out some numbers on it. That, not only would that help us, define the total investment, but also the potential timeline, right? Because as the cost would go up, so might the timeline get stretched out, if it ends up being a phased-in approach. But this is an exciting project for the community, and I'm sure that initially we'll have some sticker shock, but I would encourage everybody in the room to think big, because it's, as Trustee Rhodey and Trustee Grabowski said, this is something that, it's an investment that probably won't happen in, well, not my lifetime ever again. So it's a great opportunity while we have some momentum and potential partnerships with the businesses downtown to keep this moving forward.
Are there any other comments, questions as it relates to this particular article?
I'm assuming then that the village board is endorsing going forward and continuing to work on this then. Is that correct?
Well, we have action slated for this, so if someone would like to make a motion as it relates to that particular item, Bob, go right ahead.
I'm guessing, so, I'm trying to think, how would we phrase that motion in terms of, granting staff permission to
Getting bids on.
seek bids or assembling a budget?
Yeah, develop project details and continue refining the concept. And if I would run into additional costs in that process, I can bring them back to the board.
Can we layer on, Nick's comment about the existing pavilion into the next steps? And build that into the project as we're getting quotes and ideas?
I'd love to see that building more functional.
Mhm.
I mean, if anyone, this isn't a knock on our park and rec in any way, but if anyone has seen the new Sussex building that just went up, that's kind of the multi-use between the band shell and the center there, like that would be amazing if we could actually incorporate something that is functional with music, stage, concessions, all of that, and so, yeah, I would have no problem. And as we mentioned, like this isn't set in stone.
Yeah.
There's elements of it that can be tweaked, stuff that could be added. The original concept, I will say, because I want it really bad, had a bridge going across the front of the dam, connecting the deck to the boardwalk, which I think would just be amazing for pictures and everything else. So would I love to see that put back in? Absolutely. And as Matt said, shoot for the moon on the initial, and we could start going down from there. Let's not limit ourselves to start. Let's try to get it how we want it, because as we said, this is our one shot at kind of reimagining the whole downtown.
So, what I'm hearing, Jim, is that maybe we should have the three of you get together with the businesses and fine tune and exactly say, okay, this is what we want to see downtown, period, and this is what we should send out for bids to develop and get pricing on. Would that make more sense to just?
I think it would, all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
meet with the stakeholders, and then even potentially, we wanna bring our planner into it as well, to sit down and then start, cause making sure all the aesthetics do still fit the downtown B2 district. The guidelines that we already have down there, to keep that, again, cohesive with the current buildings that we have. But yeah, definitely meeting with all the stakeholders again to fine tune it before we put it to anything to bid. But
Do we need action on this?
You don't need it. I think what staff wants, what the administrator wants, what the trustees want, is direction as to next steps. If the relevant parties are clear on their marching orders, I don't think you necessarily need a motion.
Okay. Matt, are you okay with that?
I think it's clear. We have good support from the board to continue moving forward.
Yep.
And we will, because we want to capitalize on the momentum.
I haven't heard a no from the board, so
Perfect.
go forward, gentlemen. Okay, item item 3 is new business. Review, discussion, and possible action on a request from the Pewaukee River Partnership for $14,808 of seed money to apply for grants to fund planning and design of improvements to the Pewaukee River shoreline. For those of you in the audience that don't know, the bridge that was built downtown was done by this nonprofit group. All the pathways along the river right now have pretty much been handled by the partnership. And over the years, I would have to say that whenever we've invested with the Pewaukee River Partnership for anything, they've done an outstanding job. And I really have to take my hat off to them, so thank you very much for that. And with that being said, is there any questions, comments, or anything from the village board as it relates to this particular item?
Well,
Charlie, did you have something?
do we want to have them come up and kind of present what it, because there's a lot of intricacies to this one, and it actually ties in with the last agenda item.
Good evening, and congratulations on your plan that you've done for the downtown area. It's wonderful.
Name and address.
Is that
Name and address, please.
name and address? Charlie Shong, 116 Highland Avenue, Pewaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you.
And this young man, Tom Kemp.
Parkside Road, Pewaukee.
Okay, so back to the congratulations. And I'm really glad to see that we finally are starting to move forward with some of the vision that people have had for this downtown for quite a long time. So, congratulations. It's good to see that happen. Okay, I am Charlie Shong. I'm the president of the Pewaukee River Partnership. We've been around for quite a while, as Jeff has said. We've done a lot of different projects in the village. One of the things that we did in 2014, we had a Pewaukee River protection plan done that outlined a lot of the different projects that could be done on the river and focusing on the downtown and the Pewaukee Village area. We have done some of those things. Obviously, the bridge was one of the projects that was in this plan that should have been built there, and it was. So we've done some of the things, but we've gotten to the point where we need to do more comprehensive planning, and particularly in the downtown area. You're talking about improvements. I'm sure everybody that walks across the bridge looks up and sees those funny-looking, ugly brush bundles that goes, couldn't they do something better? Well, that's what we're looking for, is to do something better. So the first step would be to apply, our group, or the village could do it, to apply for a planning grant so that we can have an engineering firm come in and assess the area and determine what projects we can do and, you know, the cost of various things. The planning grant also puts us in a position to get grants for a lot of the different projects that we could do down there. And there is quite a bit of money available depending on the year. So the first step, though, is to have it put down in a plan that says this is what we can do down there and this is what should be done. And so to that extent, our friends at Ruckert Milky have come up with a proposal to do the grant for the planning, the money for the planning grant, the number of the cost that would cost, and then to go through, they have an explanation of all the things that they will be doing, and it's a typical planning grant. They look at all aspects of down there, the environmental, what's there, what could be done, and so that's the first step. Once we have this done, then we can apply for various grants to do the work that's outlined in the planning grant. So Tom, you wanna throw a few things in there too?
Yeah, and then I think we'll get Nick up here and he can just kind of go through the
Yeah.
proposal. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we did meet with some of the staff out there. We met with the DNR fish biologists out there, talked about the river and the fisheries and the creek, and it's really starting to thrive. A lot of fish go over the dam, but a lot of fish are coming up from the Fox River too, so it's really turning into a fishery. You can see down there, Charlie's usually trying to pull the rocks out of the river. The kids keep throwing back in. We're trying to get it deeper, faster, healthier for the fish, and then put in some amenities, which I'll let Nick go into, but it's basically getting a civil engineer, planner, landscape architect involved to do a drone survey of the site, come up with, some documents. Nick, if you want to come up, I'll take team with you. And that's what this proposal's for, and I'll let you want to kind of walk through it.
What we're doing?
Yeah, I know we don't have the actual slides of the work, but if you, going off of this map, if you could kind of touch on the areas and what the plan is.
Yep. So the first part of the proposal is,
Name and
Name and
address.
address.
Your
oh,
name and address.
I'm Nick Connor. I live in Muskego.
That's okay.
Still, yeah,
You want my
we won't hold that against you. We still need your address for the record, so.
Do you need my full address?
Yep.
Please.
W125 S7524 Stratford Court. I hate the address. It's so bad. Okay. We're good?
Yep.
So the first part of the proposal is for the surface water planning grant through the DNR. The first step of that proposal is in September. We meet with the DNR, basically go over the project, the proposed project. They approve the project, then in November we submit the grant. In March, around March 15th, is when they do the awards. The grant is for $10,000, and the funds from that grant would cover the proposed fieldwork. The proposed fieldwork is pretty straightforward. It's basically seeing what's out there. What are our existing conditions? That is doing endangered resource surveys. It's doing a wetland delineation. It's getting a drone out there to fly the site. The drone takes video, it takes imagery, it can get us topography. We use all of that for planning. The nice thing is, especially for projects like this, that drone imagery and the drone video, we can send it over to you, and you can use it for any meetings that you have to help you as the project moves forward. So we do the field work sometime during the growing season of next year, call it May. After we do the field work and the survey, we would take that all back, we process it, and then we would come up with a conceptual plan. The conceptual plan would look similar to what you have for the lake plan that you just had up. It's going to have existing conditions, it's going to have proposed conditions, and call out certain features. The difference would be we would probably have some cross sections in there, basically looking straight down the channel of the stream in some of the areas that really need attention, and then we would overlay that with digital imagery of what the proposed condition would be. So you can see very clearly what the existing is versus the proposed. So a concept plan. Concept plan would then be reviewed, and the next step after that would be another round of funding. And if you get me started on all this, I'll just keep talking. But basically the next round of funding is you apply for that next round of funding, which would be sometime, depending on what grant we go for, sometime in the spring to late summer. That's going to fund the design work, the plan set development and things like that, along with permitting, state and federal permitting, and things like that. And then you go for the third round of funding, which is the construction grants. So you just kind of stage this and you kind of build it as you go forward.
Do you want, because the one you presented at the River Partnership meeting, you know, kind of gave, obviously it's not again, not a set in stone, but some of the elements that you're wanting to focus on of our current situation.
Yes. Can I point?
Yeah, please.
Does that help everybody?
Yeah.
I also have a big, like, hard copy. I don't know if that'll work better, but basically what we have throughout this whole section is it's a stream that is trying to handle flows that is too much for the stream. And so what the improvements are that we're focusing on are to naturalize the stream and improve its ability to handle these flows. And this is just phase one of it, call it. Okay, this is the one that everybody can see. This is the one that gives us all a lot of benefits in terms of aesthetic value. And we can work on some of the functional ones in later phases if we want. But essentially what we're going to do, if we move from the lake down, the first section from the dam to the covered bridge, that area, that's essentially it wants to be a big wetland. It wants to be a settlement area. And so what we would do is create a channel through this area so that it has a defined, we call it a defined bed and bank. Okay, so you'll see a defined channel that runs through there. And then on the side of that channel, both above and below, we're going to integrate and restore the wetland area in that, on either side of that channel. Along the outer bank of all of these pools, in the every bend that you see, we would put in either a stone toe or a wood toe. All that is it's just a set of structures that help slow down water as it goes into the pools. All of the stress in these systems comes as the water comes into the bend, right? Because the water's going straight and it wants to keep going straight. So it hits that bend in the pool and it just starts scouring it away. And that's why you see in the bends of these river systems, that's where you start seeing those banks where you got the person with the survey pole and the survey pole's like 10 feet up there, and that's why. Is because you're pushing a whole bunch of water through these systems. And if you don't have the natural structures in there to keep it stable, it just keeps eroding it away. So in the pools, we would put in structures that slow down the water. The benefit of these structures, additionally, is also that they create fish refuge and refuge for other species, whether it's amphibians, birds. They're really just magnets for a lot of different species. We would also incorporate in the straight sections riffles. Riffles are just a straight section of river where you have a bed with like fieldstone cobble. And in this system, the riffles are serving kind of two purposes. The transition between riffles and pools is where fish breed. So we would incorporate, again, those features in there that would really restore this stream, stabilize the stream, and incorporate features that are improving the habitat and improving the species. All of it is to the benefit of all of the humans living around there because it just looks like a nice, pretty stream. The easiest way I can describe it is if you are somewhere where you see a stream and then you have like a prairie next to the stream, like 10-foot prairie on either side of the stream. That's what it'll look like. I mean, obviously, we have some very restricted corridors in here, but in that floodplain above the channel is where we would plant the native wildflowers and grasses. And so the stream would look like a nice meandering stream that has a prairie on either side of it. How'd I do?
Tom, do you want to hit after Oakton?
I think, well, it goes past, because Chase Bank is in there, and that's where we might want to widen it.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to touch on that part, because sorry to jump in, but obviously after the last spring and then last fall, I know myself, I'm sure others have gotten a lot of questions regarding downtown flooding and what initiatives can we take, or what focus have we put on it? So I feel like this is a perfect opportunity for.
Yeah, so everybody, I think, is kind of aware of that. Oakton Bridge is, Charlie measured 18 feet wide, and then when you get down to the 28 feet, and then 17. Well, by Chase, where it narrows down to 17. Yeah. So we're meeting with them. We've already talked about moving a power pole. I've talked to the real estate people, above the real estate people, to find out about, are we able to move that and widen that channel? The goal is to let the water go through. He mentioned slowing down water. Don't think of that in the flooding condition. That's slowing down when the rocks and riffles are the low flows and flowing for the fisheries and all the habitat. During the high flows, that's deeper channel or wider channel, and we're letting the stream go. So we're trying to improve the aesthetics as well as, you know, the flow and whatnot. And I just wanted to point out, as we talk about what we're doing with the money, that we're applying for a grant. It's seed money to apply for a grant that is a reimbursement grant. So it's, you need something to start, but we intend on getting that money back to be able to use for the next step for another grant to pay for that. So I did one in Meadowbrook Creek with Walleyes for Tomorrow, and it was a $50,000 grant, and the volunteers that were working on the project, you get paid as a volunteer, like $12 an hour. It's cheap, whatever, but you get to write that off, and that becomes part of the matching part of the grant, so no money actually comes out of your pocket at that point, but you need it to start, so then you reimburse it. So I just wanted to clarify that part. So the goal is to be able to move forward on this and get the seed, get a motion to sign or work with us to cover the seed money to start this. We do got other organization, PRP and Walleyes for Tomorrow, that I'm gonna be looking to try and get some bigger funds once we get to a construction stage or whatnot, but we'll talk about that when we get there, just like the lakefront. Get a plan together, get the concept, find out what the numbers are, find the partners that can help with the project, and just get it moving forward. So that's the goal here. I don't know, Shirley, you have anything else, or Nick, or any questions?
Tom, I got a question for you. Is dredging the river down, and besides enlarging it, a concept that it could be done to deepen it so that it'll hold more water?
We'd want the low flow channel deeper. I mean, back when, you remember by the tunnels, there always was a hole there that fish would populate, and there was a natural pool there, and that's kind of filled up over time, but it's more stuff. We'll work with the DNR out there, because a lot of times you'll do survey and you'll hit stream base hard bottom, and sometimes in an area where there's sediment filled up, like on the sides, you know, that's a bunch of sediment that's getting caught up in there, and we should be able to find a hard bottom on that. We could remove some of that, but it'll be, this first part is get all the survey, get all the concepts, meet with the DNR out there, say this is what we'd like to do. You get their feelings, and you know, if they buy into certain stuff, and that's where Nick will come in to different concepts. And he talked about stone and native plants. I've always said, like, where Charlie's trying to do with the brush bundles, and it's working. It just takes a long time. Some of that's filling in. If we could get that filled in, then we could have the 6th grade classes going down there and planting native plants in a certain spot at the point of the river where it's not intended to be mowed or anything, and we could put some beautiful native plants in there. And then every year doing the trail with the kids, we could be doing the trail and the native plants in those areas, and then they're protected and they'll be there forever. So,
Is there any other questions, Ms. Bob?
Yeah, I guess the message, or the question goes to both Tom or Charlie. Will the restoration of the shoreline and the channel overall, will it eventually lead to a vision that I've heard from more than one person, a walkable lit path that we would be able to do along the river?
Well, yeah, when we did this plan in 2014, we have in there a concept of a walkway all the way through the village. Obviously, the bridge that we would like to build from the Seatman property over to Kep Park is still in the works, and we're still trying to work through how we can make that happen, dealing with the floodplain issue. So, you know, all these things have been in the plan for a number of years, and that walkway is one of them. We did outline, you know, some areas where we could walk through the village already. There's, you know, minimal amounts of property owners, and one of the biggest property owners as far as shoreline on the village is the village itself. It owns a pretty big piece on the, you know, right across the street here. There's a section where their old treatment plant, where the recycling center and stuff is now, that's village-owned property. You get down, there's a village-owned property on Hickory Street on this side of that would be the west side of where the Public Works garage is. They already own that. So it's one of those things where if we want to work through with a plan for a walkway along the river, we're really, there's minimal private properties that we'd even have to consider when we work through that. So it's a very doable concept. The area along Hickory Street years ago, some of us old people can remember when there was a bus company there. The guy that started the bus company, Jim Ackley, had a walkway all along the river from Clark Street to the end of his property that walked through there. And that was years ago. So, you know, the idea of a river walk all the way through the village to, for instance, the end of Riverside Drive right now, now you are linked up to where the county has a lot of property, and we've talked with the county years ago about the potential for the walkway through there, and a variety of different projects that the county could get involved in. So, you know, if we start this project and we get this initial planning done and people get enthused about it, we could potentially see the Riverwalk all the way through the village and connecting with the county property. I mean, it's one of those things that the plan has been there for years. It's just a matter of now we need to move forward with it. You know, and some of these things do happen. The covered bridge was in that plan in 2014, and that actually came to fruition. So it's not like if we do the planning, it may not happen the next year, but it will happen. So I think that's really important. And now we're focusing more on the river channel here with this planning grant. That's going to make improvements to the river. So the boardwalk is a second separate, you know, project. It's something that certainly if the village is enthused about it, we are too. So we can make that happen. I did want to add too that another portion of this project that we may look at is upstream of Capitol Drive, where there's a boardwalk already and a walkway that Brian Harms maintains, that's been there for a number of years. And so that we would like to include that portion, and we talked to Nick about that as part of the planning grant. I don't see it as a major change in anything. It's just extending it a little bit further upstream. And we also talked a little bit amongst us about including the area down to Clark Street. So we're basically covering that first step. This would be in the planning grant. So that area would be covered. So we'd expand a little bit more than what you see up there. And we don't know that it's going to change the cost a great deal. So I'd let Nick maybe mention something there too.
Yeah, I'm just talking to Nick about that boardwalk is definitely part of it. When he does his drone, he's going up it, and we talked about for the same dollar, not changing any prices, going up over Capitol Drive. He's flying the drone, that's collecting all the planimetrics, that's the topographical contours and features, and you'll see the trees. Trees will be surveyed when they're bigger sized trees, but he's doing that whole area there, so we'll have planimetrics, which is basically getting that survey data and getting on it a plan sheet, so we can come back and sit down and go, okay, here's what we're thinking of doing there. This is, I mean, he'll come up with, this is what I propose, but we would want to meet with probably, I'm going to say Jim and Bob, if you guys are going to help kind of lead this, we want to sit down with you. We're not coming back and just going, here it is. We want to sit down and say, here's what we're thinking here, and kind of share that information, get some concepts together, see what you guys think before you finalize anything. But that drone will catch all that area for a width that a walking path could be done.
Would that
And that
also,
helps the grants. When we apply for grants, DNR likes to look at, okay, is this helping the wildlife? Is this helping the fishery? Is this helping the recreational aspects? Is this helping the erosion control and steam bank stabilization? You hit all that points and you've whooped other people that are, applying for certain stuff, so it's all good.
would the project also include the restoration or the fixing of the bank directly across from Kep Park?
Yeah, that's basically what you're staring at with the bridge is what I keep thinking of, that little point there and off to the side and whatnot. It's coming up for concepts with that. And as Charlie just mentioned, even going up towards the park, Brian had some ideas up there, and we wanted to talk to Nick about that. So we want to get that with this drone survey for this price, fly that, get those planimetrics, and then Nick come up with some concepts and then apply for that planning grant.
I don't think, I know I didn't realize it, but I don't think many people realize it that have gone over the Penny's Bridge there from Kep Park, is that how much erosion has occurred over the past 50, 60 years. Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, but where those tree, lines of the river now, basically outside of that is all eroded away. Where the new boardwalk is that you guys put in, that would have been 30 feet inland opposed to sticking into the water now. The River Partnership has done as much as they could up to this point to stabilize those banks, but every year we're losing a little bit more and more, and it's soon going to become unmanageable. So if we don't do something about it now, it's just going to create a bigger problem down the road. And what has been proposed here in narrowing it, filling in what has been eroded to create a true floodplain with natural grasses, with a habitat for wildlife, it's just going to increase the aesthetics and ambiance back there. We have buy-in also from private property owners like the Seatman Group and Mr. Grosh back there to be able to take this on. And when you have community partners that want to see something like this succeed and want to make it a public space, with a walkway and lit walkway and almost like a nature preserve back there. Just like we said with the downtown, this has the chance to fundamentally, again, change a portion of our downtown for the future. We talked about it years ago in the strategic plan about making the downtown more walkable, more pedestrian friendly, more about recreation outdoors, and this accompanying it with then the boardwalk on the lakefront. Now we have a legitimate holistic approach to that whole triangle that Bob mentioned earlier. And that's why these two together, starting at the same time, it's an incredible amount of momentum. And I know I mentioned that word several times tonight, but we haven't had the momentum like we do now for this downtown. And with the River Partnership behind it, the Penny's Bridge was a heavy lift, pun intended, and they were able to get that done. And so with the hours that these gentlemen are putting in, this is, I have no doubt to see that this comes to fruition. So,
Any other comments from the board?
We got one question, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tom, you said that there's some money needed seed money to get started, but then it's gonna be reimbursed. Is that reimbursed back to the village or just reimbursed for future project costs?
Well, we'd want to turn it back into future grant stuff, but it would be going back towards the village. So we would be talking about the next phase at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like you can kind of use the money over and over again,
Sure.
doesn't necessarily accumulate.
Any other comments or questions?
This does have an action item, correct?
There is possible action, because we need to approve the $14,808.
If there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve the $14,808 to apply for the planning design grant.
Second, Rhodey.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Item 4 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Grabowski.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are hereby adjourned for this meeting.
If anyone wants to stick around, we have a really exciting regular meeting for the next few hours.